Okay. All right. Maureen?
It's still along the lines of the question. It's like, what did you personally get? What was your takeaway from, you know, coming to the assembly, being a part of the assembly? What was your personal takeaway as far as in your daily interaction with other people?
Did it make you handle people differently than you used to handle them, or handle a situation that may have came up?
Absolutely. I mean, but I think that's just natural anyway. Regardless of, whatever situation you're in, it may have triggered some lessons in how you're dealing with people and how you're communicating with people. Of course, with new relationships having been formed, you start learning more about yourself through reflections of those relationships that you're building. So, I mean, there was growth, period. I think there
Okay.
was a tremendous amount of growth on my part. I definitely see where it helped me realize that something that I've always known, everything is real.
Okay.
Everything is real.
Right.
You're going to be able to draw from everything as long as you feel aligned. You can pull from almost anything in your experience. That's what you're here to do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's my go.
Your takeaway. He was saying your personal takeaway.
Oh, wow. I don't know. You got to come back to me on that one.
Okay. I would say that I did. I feel like I treated situations differently. I dealt with conflict differently, like after the Torah lessons, and then I also would notice like the way other people interacted. How this situation may not have happened if they did this. Like it was easier to point out different things just seeing other people's interactions. So my interactions with people changed as well.
Okay. Kia?
I establish more boundaries. I feel like I got to a point where I wanted to be everything for everybody, kind of lost myself in the process. And I learned to create those healthy balances, those healthy boundaries to say, okay, all right, you got this issue, but you had this same issue last week. How we going to solve it this time? As opposed to let me keep just helping and helping. No, we got to come up with a solution. We need some type of resolve.
Right.
So, learning to establish those boundaries was very healthy for me personally. So that's a good takeaway.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 Adon?
So, like, just following on the statements, right? So, like, earlier, y'all talked about, like, being contained to just food and children, right? But the reason why I asked that question the way that I did, because y'all got a lot of skill sets, right?
Well, I was going to say, not to cut you off, but to cut you off, as Maish would say. It wasn't just food and children. It was also organizing.
Organizing,
It was
right.
cleanup,
Decorating.
decorating.
Days.
It was a lot more than just food and children.
I mean, agreed. So, the, the, the point of that, or really to drive it home, is that y'all got a lot of skill sets that are oftentimes suppressed within the assembly, right? So, one thing is that, like, when you look at trends of organizations, right? Women have an enhanced value that they bring to growing organizations simply because y'all just create stuff, right? So, like Maisha, like, she's just a plug. She the connect. You know, you can hear me? Okay. No, like, Kia is a plug. Like, she plug everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? And, like, I mean, that's one thing. Like, when we met, I like, dang, man, this girl know everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I joke her all the time. I'm like, everybody your damn cousin. You know what I'm saying?
They are.
In Hampton Roads, but to the point, right? Do you think we could have did more to bring out those skill sets that you have, right? As opposed to putting you in a box, that kind of comes with attaching yourself to the paradigm, right? Because anything that's consistent, like that's what they do, right? And if you've ever led people before, right, you know, a good thing is to, you know, draw out and lift up the things that they do, right? Because, you know, you get that return, right? Or you get that loyalty, you get that buy-in from the people that you're dealing with. So that's what drove that question.
Well, absolutely. If there had been some type of process for people that would maybe outline. So tell us a little bit about yourself outside of what you, because the first question you're asked is, who do you know yourself to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, is that the question?
Yes.
That's
What's
the
your
first
name
question.
and who
What's
do you
your
know
name
yourself to
and who
be?
do you know yourself to be? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And it's almost a trick question if you
Right.
think about it.
Especially
Oh,
when
it
you
was
first
no
get
trick
there.
question for me.
You know, so like it definitely probably would have been a better idea possibly to have better processes in place, especially if you're establishing an organization that intends to do community service,
Right.
that intends to go out and grow and connect with other organizations and establish, you know, some type of currency, whether it be within the community or just credit to, you know, operate in that type of, you know, way. So yeah, definitely would have worked out better. But hindsight, you know, hindsight. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I'm not the only one, but you know, when you go back and you tell your family, you know, this is now what I am a part of. You know, the first thing that most people say is, "Oh my gosh, she's in a cult. He's in a cult. Oh my
Absolutely.
God, like they got you doing all this crazy stuff." I think for me, being in a community and getting a better light shined on the Hebrew walk is definitely something that's needed, because you go places and you say Hebrew and it's like, oh my gosh, y'all the people that just scream at people all day. And it's like, no, we don't. You
Right.
know, don't put us in a box.
Right.
You know, for me now, with some experiences that I'm having with different, you know, religious groups, and you see them and you see how willing they are to have conversations, participate in the community, do things for each other, you know, it's a lot different. You know, it's like I would have loved to have seen that. Like that would have had a lasting effect on me personally.
Okay.
And I feel like that was missing.
Okay. Cool. All right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Because that's going to lead us into the next question, basically. And the next question is, if there was anything you could improve during that time, what would it be?
I don't think we have enough time for that. No,
What would it be? Because if we take your example of certain things that didn't happen, could you could have stepped in and took hold of the mantle and said, let's do this?
I tried a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff got shut down. One thing, going back to being a woman in this walk, what I learned, and I'm not bashing anybody, let me say that.
this is my personal
This is
opinion.
my personal opinion. You know, being a female trying to articulate or voice certain things that you have knowledge of, not in a way that's belittling, not in a way that's condescending, but sometimes men take it as, be quiet,
Okay.
stay in your place. You know, we would have these conversations about buying buildings. And if I make a comment like, who has the credit score? Where's the down payment coming from?
Right.
It's like, oh, sister, you don't believe in the creator. No, I do. But this money not going to fall off this tree. Like, let's have a plan. Let's be realistic. We are not in these ancient days where, you know, we about to go sell a donkey. We have to have cash money. So when you say these things, the conversations start to get shorter and shorter and shorter to a point where you feel like, me personally, I wasn't welcome. So what's the point of me coming to these conversations about building if what I'm saying is not valid and nobody's receiving it? Let me not say nobody, because it was people that were.
Right.
But for the masses, I felt like we didn't move because we didn't really have a plan.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Y'all might want to skip me for a moment.
No, we don't want to skip you.
Okay, so I agree with what you just said, but kind of like branching off from what you said, once we started growing and there were so many of us, our conversations really changed. And I know there were points where we would have discussions on certain topics. And prior, I would always talk and give my little 2 cents about whatever and, speak about what I thought. But once we got bigger, I stopped because it might have been something that I didn't agree with or that I knew a different way, but I didn't want to be that argumentative woman. I didn't want to be her. So I just wouldn't say anything.
Okay.
So once we got bigger and there were so many other people that didn't necessarily think or speak or act like we did prior, it was I don't know how you would change that though. Because once you get bigger, you can't really control that. You're going to have different people from different places. So, right. But that was one thing for me that changed a lot. Like when it got to the point where I just wasn't really saying too much.
Yeah, because it was a point where it was a space to learn. It was a space to say, I don't really understand that. Can you break that down? And they would.
Right.
And then we got to a point where it was like, well, if you don't already understand this and believe it the way I believe it, something's wrong with you. Mm. And I'm a person, I struggle with learning another language. Mm. You can give me any book, any hooked on phonics, anything you can think of, and I'm not going to get it. Like, I can't even learn Spanish. I can't roll my tongue. I can't do anything. So when we would have conversations, it went from, okay, the scripture says X, Y, and Z to, that's not how it reads in Hebrew. And if you don't know Hebrew, you shouldn't even be talking about it. Mm-hmm. Well, brother, I don't know Hebrew. I barely learned the alphabet. Like, let's start there. And I only got that from the hip hop song on YouTube. But, it's like we got to this point where opinions were no longer valid if we didn't think the way the majority was thinking.
Right. Right. And I want to touch on what y'all was saying, because at a time it was like so a lot of the people that was coming in, they already said to themselves that they was already learned.
Mm-hmm. They grew up in it.
Right. Certain things like that. So, I mean, I can get exactly what y'all young ladies are saying about that situation, and then to the point of not speaking up, I would say Jira speak up, because we always wanted you to speak up, because we understood that, Jira study. She really
Hebrew.
Goes in.
She
knows this stuff. She took the time out to really go in and study, and we will always look to you to. Right. And that's the point. You may not been in the kitchen a lot, but you could have did what you needed to do inside the Knesset for, speaking up, especially for the other young ladies in there.
Well, I would say, I don't know if y'all remember that. I think it might have been like a Unity Shabbat. Someone did a lesson, or I don't want to call it a lesson. They got up and started talking about the independent woman. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, y'all know I had a lot to say. I said not one word through the whole thing, because I'm like, if I stand up and say what I think, no.
Right.
That would not.
That you wouldn't have had the same understanding they had.
Yeah, no.
Right.
But
because you're not married. So you have to be independent. So you have to do certain things.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I already felt like, not from you guys, but I already felt like I was looked at differently.
Right.
So it was like, if I said it anyway, they'd be like, see, that's why she's single.
Let me say, Jerry, you were absolutely looked at differently, because let a man come in there. We were all like, don't look at that one. You better go outside. Not that. She was very protected.
Right. Yeah, she was.
Oh, I remember a couple Shabbats.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But that was from you guys. Like, once we got other people, it was different.
Right. Italia, you got anything on that?
I was doing what I usually do.
Right. and I can confess to that, because I know she loved children, so she did a lot with the children. So, and she would go out her way to do it, man. I'd be at the store buying stuff for the children inside there.